Let's bring in NBC News senior White House correspondent Gabe Gutierrez, NBC's Julie Surkin on Capitol Hill, and former federal prosecutor and Politico magazine senior writer Ankush Khardori. So, Gabe, the president now lashing out at his own supporters, and yet this backlash is only growing. Trump ally Laura Loomer even warning that this issue could consume his presidency. Where's the White House thinking on this morning?
Well, Anna, it is very interesting. This is what you'd expect from the president. Whenever he feels backed into a corner, he really lashes out against who is attacking him. In this case, however, he's punching back at his own supporters. That's what really makes this so unusual. But if you talk to the White House, they feel they've done all they can here. They're still backing the Attorney General, Pam Bondi. The president publicly is still sticking up for her. And they say that she's done all she could, that the DOJ put out that statement. The president has been asked about this repeatedly and says that Bondi briefed him very quickly, but that there's no that he's encouraging her to release any credible information here. And so that right now is the open question at this point. Will Bondi release anything more than she already has? But as far as we know, the president is still sticking by his attorney general, and the president himself is now lashing out at his supporters, trying to reframe this whole controversy.
Julie, we have seen Republicans on the Hill break with the president on this, and now that the president's ire is growing, are they backing down?
Sort of. I mean, some in his core MAGA base up here, especially in the House, I would say very different than Senate Republicans on this. They want to see this come out. They are questioning Pam Bondi. Some even called for a special counsel to take over. Lauren Boebert, for example, suggested it should be former Congressman Matt Gaetz, who is up for Attorney General, but that never went through. And so this is just an issue that has been brewing within the MAGA circles for years. I remember I even covered President Trump in his final days before his campaign this year, and he was talking about it, as were his allies, his conservative allies that he was bringing up on stage. Speaker Johnson, however, softening his tone earlier this week, suggesting this is a bigger issue, perhaps breaking for the first time that I've seen with the president so publicly, and then yesterday suggesting his words were taken out of context. Take a listen to this.
It's a very delicate subject, but we should put everything out there and let the people decide it.
I have been misquoted and misrepresented on all of that. Go watch the interview I did with Benny Johnson. I was very clear. I mean, we're for transparency. I'm saying the same thing
outside of stanchions.
Except they're not really saying the same things the president is. Sure, the president said Bondi could release some of these files, but here's the thing. Democrats are also keeping this issue completely front and center for Republicans. For example, yesterday I scooped a resolution in the Senate by Ruben Gallego that he's trying to push, essentially a messaging vote, but all of these designed to put Republicans in a hard spot and reaffirm their desire to either get these documents out there or keep them hidden on them.
It looks like there's some bipartisan legislation being pushed, or a resolution in the House, with Republican Thomas Massie signing on to Democrat Ro Khanna's resolution to try to force a vote on releasing the files as soon as next week. What's the likelihood of that happening, Julie?
And this is what I mean about the differences between Republicans in the Senate and the House. Yeah, Thomas Massie, a Republican who has drawn the ire of the president basically all year long for a number of issues, teaming up with Ro Khanna, as you mentioned, to try and force a vote on the floor to essentially force the DOJ to release these documents, to get them all out there. The only issue is that resolution in the House will take 7 days before Massie and Khanna can even call around and start collecting signatures. They need 218, a majority, to be able to force Johnson's hand in getting this moving on the floor. And that's another tell here. If Johnson really wanted to force the DOJ to do this, he could by putting this on the floor himself. Clearly he doesn't, and trusts the president to do the right thing here when it comes to the Epstein case. But for Khanna and Massie's resolution, still a while to go on that.
Gabe, there's also the fact that the president's going back on his own promises to his supporters during the 2024 campaign that he would release the files. Take a look.
Would you declassify the Epstein files?
Yeah, I would.
All right.
I guess I would.
We need to release the Epstein list. That is an important thing.
How is it that my father could be convicted of 34 crimes, but no one on Epstein's list has even been brought to light?
The president, his vice president, his own son, all on the 2024 campaign trail making something out of the Epstein files. Now he wants to disavow supporters who care about the Epstein files. Gabe, the question is why? Why the about face?
Well, Anna, look, latching on to the Epstein files, at one point it served him politically. Now that it doesn't, he is much less likely and much less willing to stick with it. Now, if you listen to that interview where the president was asked about the Epstein files back during the 2024 campaign, he almost was reluctantly saying it wanted to be released. If you continue that answer, he did say you had to be careful with what you release because it could it could destroy people's lives. That's certainly something that he might feel strongly about regarding the Steele dossier years prior. But while the president didn't latch onto it as much as he's latched onto other conspiracy theories, as you just played, some of his allies, J.D. Vance, even his own son, and plenty of others did latch onto it, and now he can't seem to get away from it. What the administration would rather be talking about is that they're trying to sell their so-called one big beautiful bill. Vice President J.D. Vance in Pennsylvania yesterday trying to do that, and instead, here we are talking about the Epstein saga.
They can't seem to escape it. Gabe, stay close. Julie, thanks for your reporting. Ankush, you recently wrote in Politico that there may be three possibilities here of what's going on with the Justice Department on these Epstein files. One, an actual cover-up. Two, Trump officials really believed the conspiracies until they got into government. Or three, they never believed them and were simply misleading voters. Based on the fallout over the past few days, is there one of those theories you're leaning to? What new information are you looking for?
You know, I'm keeping a very open mind at this point. I have to be honest, because the way in which the administration has pushed back on this, and Trump has pushed back on it in particular, has been very striking to me. I want to refer to what Gabe mentioned a moment ago, where Trump said, well, you know, on the campaign trail, we ought to be worried about whether there are documents or references to people that would hurt third parties. The comment that he gave recently that you also mentioned, where he said, oh, we'll release credible information. These are qualifiers he does not provide in other contexts. And, you know, when he was at this cabinet meeting last week saying, oh, this is a conspiracy theory, why are you guys harping on all this? I mean, Trump has his own conspiracy theories he's come up with, and Trump is famous for never moving on from anything. He is still talking about the Mueller investigation. So I think you look at all these things, and I have to say they raise some serious questions in my mind about whether they happen to find something that they weren't expecting to find in that material, because the very hyper-defensive pushback here is frankly unlike anything I've seen from him.
It's definitely remarkable, that 180. I keep trying to understand why he's going after his own supporters on this. There's this other new development, Ankush. I'm wondering what you make out of it. The DOJ firing federal prosecutor Maureen Comey, apparently with little or no explanation. She's James Comey's daughter, former FBI director. She also played a role in the prosecution of Jeffrey Epstein and his co-conspirator, Ghislaine Maxwell. What do you make of the timing of this firing amid this debate over the Epstein files inside Trump's orbit?
The timing is very curious, and I understand why people are asking questions. I mean, look, on the one hand, this administration, the White House and Trump in particular, viscerally dislikes James Comey and has been looking for ways to make his life more difficult, including by initiating a criminal investigation recently. So on the one hand, you could just see this as personal vindictiveness. On the other hand, the timing of it is raising questions among people about whether or not this may be some further effort to sort of bury the Epstein case. Now, I would say if that is the objective, this is probably not the smartest way to pursue it, because having now fired her, she is free to talk to the press if she wants to. And her father, Jim Comey, former FBI director, is famous for leaking things to the press to hurt Donald Trump, including the memos that he wrote about his interactions with Trump early in Trump's first term. So I don't know what the objective was. I will just say if their objective was to tamp this down, the Epstein situation, and to try to push her aside and keep her quiet, this may not have been the way to achieve it.